Good morning, guys. Welcome back to Lick Branch Farms. My name is David, and I hope everyone is enjoying their Labor Day weekend. So in today's video, we're going to be talking about a couple of different things. We're going to be talking about tomatoes, the fall tomatoes that we planted inside this tunnel here. I'm going to give you an update on them, guys. We're going to do some suckering on those. And I'm going to give you an update on the new hydroponic tray setup that we got started on earlier this week. Me and Betsy went to pick up all the supplies we needed to get another section of NFT trays situated in the back end. So we're actually starting on the other side of the tunnel, coming back this way. So if you remember the other section on the left hand side, when you go in the tunnel, we got like 92 trays down through there. And you know, we may change that up to where we can get it even 100. I'm not sure yet, but I'm gonna carry you in there and show you what we're working on so far. But guys, before we get started, if you have not subscribed to our channel, reach over here in this right hand corner and click that subscribe button and click the bell notification so you get notified every time we put out a video. All right, guys, so if this is your first time visiting our channel, we want you to feel welcome. This is a 60 by 20, and you can tell it's kind of a semi dome. It's an older tunnel. It used to be like a outdoor gardening center at a Walmart years ago. I'm thinking this thing's 30 years old, and we bought it off of a local customer of ours that comes to the farmer's market, and she and her family had it for many years outside their home. And I guess when their dad passed away, they didn't have any use for it anymore, so we bought it off of them, and me and Betsy put it up. I think it's been 3 years now. For the first couple of years, we grew in the ground inside this tunnel, but you know, as we got to looking at yields and we got to looking at different ways that we could produce vegetables faster, you know, we kind of stumbled upon the hydroponic side of it, and it was a good thing for us because we can turn more greens and lettuce out of this thing than we could ever out of the ground, no questions asked. So what you see behind me on this side is I want to say 92 trays. I haven't, each section, there's 3 sections, each section has 30 trays, except for the last section has 32 trays, so that's 92 trays. And what I'm working over here is another section. It's going to be 30 trays, and then we're going to slowly but surely move our way towards the front with 2 more 30 tray sections. And if you look, I've already got the framework in for the base, already got the irrigation tubes in for the feed lines, already got the tank in, and I've submerged it into the ground a good ways. And this is a 55-gallon drum. That's a 35-gallon drum, and I upgraded to a 55 just simply because of I guess capacity. If that's the key word, is capacity of water and nutrient solution, so I don't have to keep filling it as often. Now that 35-gallon tank that I showed you back over there, now it's not awful, and I've got it set up on a float system. You can see there's a float system in here that fills it and, you know, kind of holds the level, if you will, and makes it a little easier during the day when you're not in here. If the water level drops, it'll fill itself back up. And I've got it set up on a timer that every 2 hours, that timer kicks on for 5 minutes. And within that 5 minutes, if that float valve's down, then it fills the tank back up. That's really the only way I have of managing it, because I'm not here all day long. But, you know, it has its flaws. Those timers, they don't work all the time. Sometimes the water level it doesn't fill it up completely and all you need to do is get one leaking tray over here, and it can empty your tank in a matter of minutes. It doesn't take long at all. We've seen that. But yeah, I'm gonna carry you down through here and kind of give you a bird's eye view. And you can see, starting from the front, all of this is lettuce. This starts kohlrabi. I think there's like 12 trays of kohlrabi. Betsy put that in here last week. Then we start lettuce again. All this is magenta. All of this is new red fire. All of this is a butterhead variety. She found the seeds in our seed stash in there and wanted to try it, so she planted those. Bok choy. We got green and red bok choy. And bok choy's pretty. First time I've grown that. And mixed in there, if you look, it's some basil going down through there, and it's growing extremely well in here. Then we move on to some Swiss chard, which it doesn't like the heat, and it's not really performing that well, but we got some cooler temperatures coming, so we're hoping that it'll take off. This is bok choy that we harvested on now, and you can see these bulbs they're bubbling up really good. And kohlrabi is a great plant in a hydroponic system. I mean, it really has no maintenance at all. Once you put it in there, you forget about it for about 4 to 6 weeks. 6 weeks, they're ready to sell. All right, more lettuce. I think that's Skyphos. Then we got some more butterhead varieties, and then we got Muir. Muir is pretty much our workhorse for the hydroponic system. summer, winter, it doesn't matter. It's going to perform regardless. This setup here is where we're going to start our greens. We're going to start turnip greens and mustard greens, and probably mix in, you know, some more bok choy and all that stuff. So I'm hoping within the next couple of days, today being Labor Day, the mill's not going to run obviously, but I've got some caps. These caps here, I ordered these off of eBay, and they fit a 2x3 gutter. And this, let me pull one out here so we can kind of get a look at it. This setup here is really cost effective if you're looking to start a hydroponic system, an NFT system, you know, anyway. So most of these trays you see order from Crop King. This is their 3.75 tray. So there's really 5 components to this tray. There's 2 end caps. There's this one, and the other end cap has a hole in it, and I'll take you back there in a minute and show you. There's 2 parts to the lids, and then there's the main tray itself, and you have to put all this together. Now, I'm not going to say it's not inexpensive, because by the time you buy the lids, by the time you buy the end caps, you're going to have roughly 25, 28 bucks tied up in that one NFT sale. One of those trays is going to cost you around 28 bucks, so less than $30 for one. And it's been my experience, Crop King sells a fantastic product, not knocking anything that they sell, but the shipping for the orders that I place caught me off guard. At one point, I was ordering enough trays to fill this system, and it was costing me more in shipping than it would to get the trays here. So I had to find an alternative. I couldn't pay that kind of money for it. You know, the product's great. The shipping was eating me alive. It may be different now, but at the time when I was doing this, I had to come up with an alternative. And after doing a whole lot of research on YouTube, doing a whole lot of research on Google, this was the popular way of doing it. This is a 2x3 PVC gutter downspout. If you go on eBay, you can find these 2x3 gutter caps. And I keep forget, it's a hydroponic company that sells them, or a hydroponic vendor that sells them. But you can get the end cap like this, just blank, or you can get it with a hole in it, where you can make almost like a crack key system, if that makes sense. So yeah, the end caps are pretty inexpensive. I think I get 30 of them at a time for less than 100 bucks. I think it's like $94 for those caps. And the gutters that I buy are like $14 a piece. Get those local. They come 10 feet long. I have to cut them down to 8'6". So really the only thing that I got left as far as cost is, you know, just the adhesive or sealant that I use around the caps, which this one's already done. I got to drill a hole and then we'll run the plumbing to it. So kind of go over, you know, price. I've got roughly in this entire system with caps, gutters and all, probably less than 600 bucks. But you know, me and Betsy both agreed that this system will pay for itself inside of 3 months, inside of a month. It can pay for itself inside of a month with the right crop in it. It can pay for itself in a month. So just to give you a general idea, you know, the thinking behind that is, if you figure each rail has 12 holes. What I do is I start at the front and I measure in 5 inches. I center that. That's the first hole. Every hole after that is on 8-inch center. So there's 12 holes per rail. If we were planting a crop like lettuce, we get $5 a head for lettuce. This one rail is going to make 60 bucks if all the heads come out right. And we sell every one of them for $5 a head. We'll get 60 bucks out of that one rail. And we're going to generate that in 6 weeks, give or take. This is a 30 rail system. So 60 bucks for one rail, 600 bucks for 10 rails, 1,800 bucks for 30 rails inside of 30 to 45 days. Realistically, we're thinking more like 60. So you're thinking anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks for harvest, 1,800 bucks if all of this was lettuce in this one system. So it has a more well than double paid for itself. And that was our thinking behind, you know, this system over here. We started out with 30 trays. We started out with just this section here. 30 trays stops here. That rail right there is the 30 tray on this side. We started with this. We graduated to the next section. Then we graduated to the end section. And we run that all season last year. And it was just enough to keep things moving. I mean, we were putting plants in and out of it so fast that we had to constantly keep something on hand to go back in it because we were harvesting that much. And this system that you see right here was the only thing that got us through the wintertime markets. It really supplied everything that we took to winter market throughout the season. And with the addition of picking up an additional food hub and another late winter market, I mean, it runs to the end of December. So we're hoping that this section over here will help us get through at least 2 more markets. And we've kind of fine-tuned what we like to plant in it. We've learned what works, what doesn't. We've learned what people will buy, what they want. You know, one of our rules for market farming is grow what sells. You know, don't grow stuff that doesn't sell. You may grow things that have a peak and then they drop off. Know when that peak's going to be. Know when you need to have it in that system, but don't just rely on it, because every tray that you don't utilize here is costing you money in the long run. So yeah, we figured I'd touch on that a little bit. Be looking for more to come out of this. Once I get everything finished up and when I get ready to start running all the plumbing for it, which, I mean, let me go to the back end and show you that before I leave out of here, because I changed a few things. The way I did it over here was a little different than the way I've done it over here. So I'm using gutters. I'm using a 6-inch gutter, and you can see the gutter has got braces screwed in, you know, every 2.5 feet. But then I went with a drip edge and I split the difference. A lot of times what you'll see is the water will slow down once the roots start filling this up, but the water wants to run back in here and it'll land on this wood beam and then it runs off the backside. So I put this kind of drip edge here to stop that. But I think what I'm going to do is they make a cap for this that's got a 90 on it. It's got a downspout. I'm thinking that I'm going to buy some of those and just switch over to putting a downspout straight in. And this will be irrelevant at that point. We won't need that, but it's there. Thought about it, I put it in, and then I got to thinking, well, you know what, it'd be easier just to put a downspout in it. Well, I don't have to worry about it at all. And I'm thinking that's what we're going to do. But all of the ends have been sealed. All of this is sealed. And, you know, every bit of water that you get through that rail that goes down back to your tank over there is money saved. You don't have to replace that. You don't have to replace the nutrients in that water. It's just recycled, and the plants keep utilizing it until it's gone or evaporates, or, you know, it just naturally gets used by the plant itself. So, you know, this is a closed loop system. You put the water in through the tubes. There'll be spaghetti tubes like this here that will run into the tray. It'll run down the length of it, drop out the back. The plant roots will pull what they want out of it, and the water will return back into this tank just to get put back in the system. And every morning I come in, I check the nutrients, I check the pH, I adjust everything, and they get fed 1 time a day. I put fertilizer in these tanks once a day. If the tank needs to get refilled, it gets refilled with fresh water. So initially in the mornings, these plants are getting their first feeding, and it lasts throughout the day until the water gets depleted and it needs to be, you know, filled back up. And at that point is when, you know, the nutrient dilution or saturation starts dwindling down, because it gets diluted by the fresh water coming in. It's just a natural process. Same way in, you know, outside, if you had fertilizer in your soil, the plant's going to utilize it as the water actually delivers it to the roots. And then at one point, the water's going to slow down, so the roots are not going to be able to grab those nutrients like they normally would. And then during the next rainfall or the next sprinkler timing, the water goes back in and pushes those nutrients to the roots, and they pull it up again. Same process. All right, so we're in the fall tomato tunnel. I call it the fall tomato tunnel. It's a tomato tunnel. You know, we got heaters. We can grow in here pretty much year round. And I started these tomatoes in here mid-July. I didn't put them in here until August the 1st. So these tomatoes have been in here for 31 days. 31 days, however you want to look at it. And you've seen pictures of when I put them in here. They were maybe yay big. I can see if I can find a picture and I'll put it up here somewhere, kind of give you an idea what they looked like when it started. This was 30 days ago, 31 days ago. August the 1st is when they was put in here. This is what they look like. All right, so I'm gonna take you down here and don't mind the clicking. That's the nutrient setup, and I'll talk about that a little bit more here in a minute. This is the tomatoes now. You can look. They're almost up to my chest. They're probably 3.5 feet tall, and they are eat up with blooms. And I've seen little tomatoes in here on one of them. I think it's over here. Yeah, so over here, little tomatoes in there on these plants. And they're pretty much equal. I mean, some of them's a little bit smaller. You can see that one there, but it's still got blooms all over it. And they're progressing really nicely. They're on their 3rd flower cluster. You got the first one, You got the second one, and then the third one is starting to form up here. So you can see all the plants are about, there's the first one. That's going to have a tomato in it. That's the second one, and the third one's up here. So they're eat up with blooms. I've seen bees in and out of here. I'm really happy with the progress, and so far we're keeping them trimmed. We're keeping the suckers cut off of them. I came in here early last week and I did this row, suckered this row, and you can tell that they've already put on new suckers. So I got to do that again, and I'll do a couple of those on camera here to show you how we do that. I did these yesterday, cleaned these up, cut the bottom limbs, and you can tell these plants have no disease pressure. Doesn't look like anything's affecting them. And I'm gonna go through the nutrient setup, you know, what we've got in the tanks and the plans that I've got to upgrade that here probably on the next go around when I mix fertilizer, and I'll tell you what I'm gonna do there. All right guys, so we're going through looking for suckers, and I found one right here needs to get out. And normally I just take a pair of snips and I come in here, right here where the elbows of the plant are, it will grow what is called a sucker. It'll grow another plant. And you can root these. You can root these in soil. You can root these in like another hydroponic system, and they'll grow. And we'll probably do some of that later on when we get ready to start rooting some more plants. But this is what you call a sucker. And what this does, this is just a clone of the plant, and it will grow fruit and, you know, leaves and all that good stuff. It'll mimic the plant itself. And, you know, a lot of people say, well, it won't grow, you know, good looking fruit and all that. No, that's crap. It will. It'll grow another tomato just like the main plant will. But the problem is that it will bloom, it will grow fruit, and it will take so many nutrients away from the plant. The plant will have so many blooms on it, it won't be able to keep up with all of it. It was simply just run out of gas trying to keep up with all the tomatoes that it's trying to make. It's still trying to do its job, but it can't because there's just too many. It's overwhelming. So what we want to do is go in here and we want to clip these off. We want to stop that process of trying to grow another plant, because all we want it to do is focus its energy in growing tomatoes. That's all. We don't want it to grow another plant. Now, like I said, we can root this. We can root, and we will. Later on down the line, you'll see me cut some off and I'll root them. I think here's a good one right here. This is going to be the one I missed right here. You can see it goes all the way back down in here. And what we're going to do is just kind of cut that off. And I like to cut mine. I don't like to break them as much as some people do, simply because you risk damaging the plant more. And I am a firm believer that the plant can recover from a cut better than it can a tear. So the plant doesn't put so much energy into self-preservation. Once it realizes that limb's gone, it kind of heals it and moves on. There's another good one. I don't know how well you guys can see up in there, but that right there is a sucker. We're just gonna cut that off. And like I said, if we had already set up a small nutrient bath, we could pluck these guys down into it until they started rooting, and then we could put them in some dirt and they would take off just like these other plants have. So yeah, this is what I got off of it yesterday afternoon. All of these are suckers. Every bit of that you see in there is suckers off of that row. That's just one row of suckers that I cut off yesterday, and some limbs. I trimmed some bottom limbs off, but can you imagine this amount of growth being taken off of that plant? How much relief and how much more nutrients the fruit is going to get simply because that greenery is not on it. The plant doesn't need it. It's happy just like it is. As long as it's got enough leaves to photosynthesize, it will continue to grow. And I imagine in the next week, these plants will be up to here, and we will see actual tomatoes hanging off of them. And we're going to have to make a decision on how high we're going to let them get before we start laying them down and leaning them forward. And we'll get into that process once we, you know, get the plant up to it. But I'm thinking we're going to carry them that way, and then we're going to turn them and we're going to come back, so it'll make a constant loop. But yeah, it's not going to be long. We're going to be looking at tomatoes hanging off of these plants. All right, guys, so let's talk about these nutrient tanks just a minute. So a few videos back, you seen where we upgraded to the double Nutri setup, fertilizer injector setup. It's been working like a champ. My buddy Mike told me about this. He was doing it. Things were working out great for him. So I told him, I said, you know what, I'm gonna give it a shot. Glad I did. It's been a labor saver, because I was coming in here mixing my nutrients in one tank every day. Every morning before I went to work, I was having to mix everything, check ECs and all that stuff. This system, you don't have to do that. You set a pre-measured amount of fertilizer in each tank, and I'll go over what that is here in a minute. And you mix it up and you forget it. It's just that simple. It's once you check your EC at the nozzles, then it should be accurate. Now I've had to adjust this because I got a different nutri than it calls for. I've got a 10-to-1 instead of a 100-to-1. So my initial batch is pretty strong. It's pretty high, and I have to water it down a couple of times to get it in range. Right now, if I was to check that, it's going to be at a 2.2 to 2.5. That's where it's been the last 3 times I've checked it. But I stop diluting these tanks when I see that, because I know the rest of it's okay. All I do is I come in here in the mornings, I give it a good stir, and it starts feeding and does its thing. But I am going to upgrade these to 55-gallon drums. Those are 35-gallon drums. I'm going to upgrade them to 55-gallon drums, and I've got the drums right here. Simply because I think if I do that, I won't have to dilute them as much. That gives me 20 more gallons, which should put me where I need to be. These totes here are going to go into that tunnel. As soon as this batch runs out, I got to move some stuff around and all that. Anyway, we're going to go to 55-gallon drums. Same batch, same recipe, same weights, same everything. But we're just going to have more of it, simply because we need more water in the system than we're able to put in these 35-gallon totes. All right, so the nutrients that we got in here, I'm using Master Blend 41838. There is some 51628 and stuff like that out there, and I'm trying to get my hands on a different version of it, because what I'm buying is a little bit more expensive than what I can actually use. But right now we're using 25 pounds of 41838 in here. We're using 8 pounds of Epsom salt, and we're using 10 pounds of potassium nitrate in this tote here, mixed up, filled with water. That delivers through this nutri. In this tank, I'm using 15 pounds of calcium nitrate, and that's it. So you can't mix the calcium nitrate in with this, because it'll make gypsum. It'll harden up and just stop all your lines up. But you can mix it in here and deliver it straight into the soil, and it won't create a problem. So yeah, right now we're going to switch over to the 55-gallon barrels. The recipe won't change. Like I said, 25 pounds, 41838, 8 pounds of Epsom salt, and 10 pounds of potassium nitrate in this tote. And then in this one, 15 pounds of calcium nitrate, and that's it. Nothing else but water. And they get that every 2 hours. It feeds for 15 minutes. Now, as it's cooling off, we'll probably adjust that down to like 10 minutes every 2 hours, and then maybe we'll move to every 15 minutes every 3 hours. But right now, these plants are loving the setup. They have grown tremendously since they were put in here. I'm really, really surprised. I'm really happy with what I'm seeing. And once these plants, these are indeterminate varieties, a big beef, and we should be able to grow this on up to, you know, November, no problem. But by that time, they're going to be laying all over the ground. They're going to be everywhere. And I have some heirlooms, some German Johnson and some Black Crims that I have just seeded. I seeded them a couple days ago, that we are going to put into this tunnel. We're trying to get it set up now for winter production or fall production. You can see I got some of the skirt boards on. Me and my grandson's gonna work on this some today. But I want to get this one set up. I still got to put the heater in it and get the plastic on it. But yeah, I'm hoping within the next couple of weeks, you know, we'll have tomatoes started, ready to go in here. We're gonna do the same pot setup that we got over here. We're gonna do a gallon and a half, which these are a little bigger than a gallon and a half, guys. They say a gallon and a half is what they sell, but it's actually 1.7 gallons total. And I fill them all the way to the top. And the cucumbers that we transplanted in here are doing great. The jalapeno peppers that we got in here, they're doing absolutely great. And the bell peppers that we put in here, that's Vanguard, are looking outstanding. They're loving this system. So doesn't have to be just tomato plant. Get them dialed in. That situation, I mean, it'll work with just about anything. So guys, I'm gonna get off here and I'm gonna get busy. But like I said earlier in the video, if you guys haven't subscribed to our channel, reach over here in the right-hand corner and click that subscribe button and click the bell notification so you get notified every time we put out a video. Betsy and I appreciate you guys stopping by. We thank you for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.